I didn't know my life was about to fracture in the most elegant room I had ever stood in. For 4 years of marriage, I believed in a simple story about us. I was the steady one, the organizer, the quiet backbone. My husband Jason was the ambitious dreamer, the man with vision, charisma, and a hunger for attention that I mistook for passion. I thought love meant adjusting your life around someone else's orbit. I thought sacrifice was proof of commitment. That belief cost me everything. The night it broke was his 30th birthday. A rooftop venue on the 47th floor. Floor-to-ceiling glass revealing a skyline that glittered like it was trying to impress us back. I had spent 2 months planning every second of that evening. $15,000, 60 guests, imported orchids, a champagne fountain, a 4-tier cake wrapped in gold leaf. I wanted him to feel seen, celebrated, chosen. And for the first 3 hours, it worked. People praised the view, the food, the elegance. They praised him. They praised us. I stood there smiling in a dress I barely remembered buying, running on 4 hours of sleep and adrenaline, telling myself it was worth it. Then Jason took the microphone. I expected a thank you, a glance, my name. Instead, he spoke about Marcus Thompson, a man from his firm I'd met only a handful of times, his guiding light, the person who understood his vision when others didn't. As Jason talked, his face softened in a way I hadn't seen directed at me in years. The room laughed at the right moments. Marcus smiled, uncomfortable but flattered. My chest tightened. Still, I waited. He thanked his parents, his sister, friends, even the DJ. He never mentioned me. Then he turned toward me with a grin and said he had a surprise. For me, in front of everyone. The bag was black, the tissue paper silver. My hands shook as I reached inside. What I pulled out silenced the room. A black t-shirt, bold white letters, single again. 60 people watched my marriage die in a punchline. I didn't scream, I didn't cry, I didn't run. I folded the shirt, placed it back in the bag, set it beside the cake. Then I reached into my purse and placed my real gift on the table, a diamond tennis bracelet I'd saved 3 months of salary to buy. I said nothing. I turned, and I walked out of my life. I was 32 years old when I married Jason, and at the time, I thought we were the definition of balance. I worked in IT project management at a mid-sized consulting firm, structured, deadline-driven, predictable. Jason worked in marketing, ideas, energy, presentations, ambition. He used to joke that I was his anchor. I believed it was a compliment. We met in our mid-20s at a friend's rooftop barbecue. He was magnetic even then, easy smile, confident posture, the kind of man people naturally turn toward in conversation. I was quieter, observant. I listened more than I spoke. When he noticed me standing apart from the crowd and came over with 2 drinks, I felt chosen in a way that stayed with me far longer than it should have. Our early relationship was intoxicating. Late-night conversations, shared playlists, dreams spoken aloud with the confidence of people who hadn't been disappointed yet. Jason talked endlessly about the career he was going to build, the campaigns he would lead, the recognition he would earn, the life he deserved. I loved listening to him dream. I loved believing I would be beside him when it happened. The sacrifices started small, barely noticeable at first. When he got an offer in another city for what he called a career-defining opportunity, I didn't hesitate. I left a job I was comfortable in and found a new position within weeks. I told myself flexibility was strength. When he wanted to enroll in expensive photography courses, just for now, to build my brand, I picked up overtime. When he needed new equipment, I adjusted our budget. When conferences conflicted with our plans, I rescheduled. I didn't feel used. I felt useful. Jason thrived on momentum, and I told myself my role was to clear the path. That's what partnership meant, right? Supporting each other's growth, even if one person did most of the bending. His family loved me, or at least they loved what I did for him. His sister praised me for being low maintenance. His parents admired how grounded I was. I wore those labels like medals without realizing they were slowly erasing me. There were signs. Of course there were. Jason, but whenever I asked, he had explanations ready. Deadlines, pressure, opportunity. And by the time we reached our 4th year together, our dynamic felt fixed. I planned, I paid, I adjusted. He shone. That birthday party wasn't spontaneous generosity. It was the culmination of years of quiet conditioning, me proving my love through effort, him measuring affection by attention. And I had no idea how publicly he was about to step off it, without me. Looking back now, I can see the tension forming long before that night. It didn't arrive with screaming or accusations. It seeped in quietly, disguised as progress. Jason began speaking in a language I didn't recognize anymore. Brand alignment, visibility, positioning. Our conversations stopped being about us and became strategy meetings about him. He would pace the living room while I sat on the couch, nodding, asking questions, offering suggestions that he rarely acknowledged but always used later as his own. Marcus Thompson entered our lives like a footnote at first, a colleague, a mentor, a brilliant mind. Jason mentioned him casually, then frequently, then constantly. Marcus thought this campaign needed more edge. Marcus said Jason was being undervalued. Marcus believed in Jason when others didn't. I told myself I was being insecure, that successful people surrounded themselves with inspiring peers. Still, something shifted. When I asked about his day, his answers grew shorter and patient. When I talked about mine, he listened with half an ear, eyes drifting back to his screen, fingers restless. His family didn't help. His sister joked that I was too stable to understand Jason's ambition. His mother asked if I worried about holding him back. I laughed it off. I always did. But inside, a quiet question kept surfacing. When did supporting someone turn into disappearing for them? The birthday party planning consumed me, but it also gave me purpose. I told myself it was a reset, a reminder of our partnership. If I could just show him how much he mattered, how invested I was, things would realign. 2 months of planning, dozens of vendor calls, backup schedules, careful budgets stretched thin. I noticed Jason didn't ask many questions about the party, didn't offer help, didn't seem curious. "Whatever you want, babe," he said, distracted. That should have warned me. The night before the party, he came home late again. He smelled faintly of cologne that wasn't his. When I asked where he'd been, he said the office. When I asked why he looked so energized, he smiled and said, "Big things are coming." I believed him. I always believed him. By the time the guests arrived and the skyline lit up around us, I felt both exhausted and hopeful. This was the moment everything came together. This was proof of our life. I didn't know the party wasn't meant to celebrate our marriage. It was meant to expose it. The music softened around 9 o'clock. Glasses were refilled. People drifted closer to the center of the room, sensing a moment was coming. Jason reached for the microphone with practiced ease, like a man used to being heard. I moved instinctively toward the front, smoothing my dress, my pulse quickening. This was it, the part where effort was acknowledged, where partnership was visible. He smiled, cleared his throat. "Tonight means more to me than most of you realize," he began, his voice warm and confident. The room quieted immediately. I felt a flicker of pride despite everything. Then he said Marcus's name. At first, I didn't panic. People thank colleagues all the time. But Jason didn't stop. He spoke about late nights at the office, about being understood without explanation, about someone who saw his potential when others couldn't. Each sentence landed heavier than the last. Each word carved a small hollow in my chest. Marcus stood near the bar, hands clasped awkwardly, smiling like a man who knew he was being praised too much in public, but enjoyed it anyway. I searched Jason's face for hesitation, for awareness, for me. It never came. My fingers curled against the fabric of my dress as I stood there, smile tightening, breath shallow. People glanced at me, then quickly away, unsure whether they were witnessing gratitude or something far more intimate. When Jason finally moved on, relief washed over me, brief and naive. He thanked his parents, his sister, friends from college, even the DJ. Still, nothing. Then he turned toward me with a playful grin that made the room chuckle, and my heart skipped, not from joy, but dread. "And now," he said, "I have a little surprise for my wife." Applause broke out. I stepped forward automatically. The gift bag was sleek, expensive looking, black with silver handles. I took it from him, aware of 60 sets of eyes following every movement. My hands trembled as I reached inside. The fabric was heavier than I expected. I unfolded it slowly. The letters appeared one by one. Single again. The room went silent. Not dramatic silence. Awkward silence. The kind that doesn't know where to go. Someone laughed nervously. Someone else cleared their throat. Jason was smiling, waiting for my reaction, like I was part of the act. The humiliation hit me in waves. Heat rushed to my face. My ears rang. My chest tightened so sharply I had to consciously breathe. 4 years collapsed into that moment. Every sacrifice, every compromise. Every night I chose him over myself, and he had turned it into entertainment. I felt grief before anger, loss before rage. My body wanted to fold. My mind refused. I closed the shirt carefully, placed it back in the bag. The quiet stretched. Then I reached for the bracelet. The Tiffany blue box felt heavier than it should have. 3 months of savings, skipped lunches, canceled comforts. I placed it beside the cake without a word. I didn't look at Jason, didn't look at Marcus. I turned and walked away. The elevator ride down felt endless. The cool night air hit my face like permission to breathe again. Behind me, the music resumed. The party continued. But my marriage had already ended. I didn't cry in the elevator. I didn't cry in the lobby. I didn't even cry when I reached the parking garage and slid into the driver's seat of my car. I just sat there. Hands on the steering wheel, heart pounding so hard it felt like it was trying to escape my chest. Shock has a strange clarity to it. Everything slows down, sharpens, becomes painfully precise. Jason had humiliated me. Not privately, not impulsively, but deliberately, carefully, after months of planning I had done for him. As I pulled out of the garage, my phone lit up on the passenger seat. Jason's name, calling. I let it ring. By the time I reached the highway, it had happened again, and again, and again. Each vibration felt invasive, like he was still trying to control the narrative, trying to pull me back into the version of reality where I laughed it off and played my part. I didn't answer. I drove straight to Ryan's apartment, my closest friend since college, the one person who had never been fully taken in by Jason's charm. Ryan opened the door, took one look at my face, and stepped aside without a word. He handed me a beer, pointed to the couch. That kindness almost broke me. I paced as I told him everything. The party, the speech, Marcus, the shirt, the bracelet. My voice stayed calm, almost detached, like I was reporting someone else's disaster. Only when I reached the part about the laughter did my throat tighten. I checked my phone. 89 missed calls. Ryan leaned back in his chair, silent for a long moment. "You don't come back from something like that," he finally said. The words landed heavier than anything Jason had done that night. Because Ryan was right. That wasn't a joke. That wasn't thoughtless humor. That was a message. Jason had told me, clearly, publicly, what he thought of our marriage. How disposable I was. How comfortable he felt turning my devotion into a punchline. I went home alone that night. Or rather, I didn't go home at all. I slept on Ryan's couch, staring at the ceiling until dawn, replaying every ignored red flag, every moment I'd shrunk myself to keep Jason comfortable. By morning, the shock had shifted into something colder, quieter. Resolve. On Monday, I called a divorce attorney. Her name was Patricia Williams. Direct, silver-haired, and unimpressed by theatrics. When she asked me what I wanted, I didn't hesitate. I want out, I said. Clean, quiet, final. Saying it out loud felt like reclaiming oxygen. Jason's messages shifted tone after that, from panic to apology to accusation. He called the shirt a joke, said I was overreacting, said marriages survived worse, but he never said he was sorry for humiliating me. That told me everything. I didn't yell, I didn't beg, I didn't negotiate. I chose myself, slowly, deliberately, for the first time in 4 years. And that choice changed the trajectory of my life. Once the word divorce entered the room, everything accelerated. Jason didn't show up at my door at first. Instead, he sent reinforcements. His sister called me 3 days after the party. Her voice was syrupy, careful. She said she just wanted to understand what was going on, as if 60 witnesses hadn't already seen it unfold. You know Jason didn't mean it like that, she said. He was joking. That's his personality. I listened without interrupting, my phone resting loosely in my hand, my pulse steady. For years, I would have rushed to reassure her, to smooth things over, to protect Jason's image. This time I didn't. He planned it, I said quietly. He ordered the shirt. He waited for the microphone. He chose the moment. There was a pause. Then irritation slipped into her tone. Well, if you hadn't been so sensitive, I ended the call. That was the pattern. One after another, his family and a few mutual friends reached out, each carrying the same message wrapped in different language. You embarrassed him by leaving. You should have talked privately. 4 years shouldn't end over one mistake. No one asked how it felt to stand there holding that shirt. No one asked why he thought public humiliation was acceptable. Jason's messages escalated too. At first, they were short and frantic. Where are you? We need to talk. Then longer, more strategic. He apologized for my feelings, for the misunderstanding, for the joke that didn't land. He said he missed me, said the apartment felt empty, said Marcus had nothing to do with us. That lie almost made me laugh. I stayed silent. Silence, I learned, is unbearable for people used to control. 6 weeks after I moved into a small furnished apartment near my office, Jason showed up unannounced. I saw him through the peephole, unshaven, exhausted, wearing clothes I'd never seen before. For a split second, instinct tugged at me. Then memory intervened. I opened the door just enough to speak. He begged me to let him in, said we needed to be mature adults. I told him he could say whatever he needed to say right there in the hallway where the truth felt sharper. He launched into a rehearsed speech. The party got out of hand. He was trying to be edgy. He never meant to hurt me. He talked for 10 minutes without pausing, without breathing, without once saying, "I'm sorry for humiliating you." When he finally stopped, I said one sentence. You made your choice in front of 60 people. I made mine when I hired a lawyer. That was when the mask cracked. He accused me of being vindictive, cold, unforgiving. He said I was throwing away 4 years over one stupid moment. But it wasn't one moment. It was the culmination. I closed the door gently while he was still talking. From that day on, I stopped engaging entirely. I threw myself into work, accepted a demanding account my boss had offered months earlier, one Jason had discouraged because it required late nights and occasional travel. The work was brutal, 14-hour days, constant pressure, but it woke something up inside me. I started running at dawn. Not for fitness at first, but for survival. The pain in my lungs gave my anger somewhere to go. Each morning, I ran a little farther, a little steadier, reclaiming territory inside my own body. Jason lost his audience, and without it, he began to unravel. There is a point in every collapse where the noise fades and you're left alone with the wreckage. For me, it came late one night in that small furnished apartment 6 weeks after I'd walked out. The place was clean, too clean. White walls, neutral furniture, no history clinging to the corners. I had just come back from work, another 14-hour day, my body aching, my mind exhausted. I dropped my bag by the door, kicked off my shoes, and sat on the edge of the bed without turning on the lights. That's when it hit. Not anger, not relief. The kind that settles into your bones. I thought about the party, the laughter, the shirt. I replayed the moment I unfolded it, frame by frame, as if my mind was trying to punish me for not seeing it coming sooner. What if I had laughed? What if I'd stayed? What if I'd tried harder to understand him? Those questions are dangerous. They sound reasonable. They are poison. I cried that night for the first time since everything happened. Quietly, not dramatically, just tears sliding down my face as I sat in the dark, mourning the woman I'd been, the one who believed love was proven through endurance. I felt foolish, exposed, replaceable. Running helped, but it didn't fix everything. Work distracted me, but it didn't erase the ache. Healing, I learned, is not a straight line. It loops back on itself, drags you through places you thought you'd already passed. Jason tried one last time during that period. A message, late at night. I never thought you'd really leave. That sentence almost broke me because it was honest. He hadn't believed I would choose myself, not after years of conditioning me to stay, to bend, to absorb. And realizing that he had built his entire sense of security on my silence was both devastating and clarifying. I didn't reply. Instead, I opened my laptop and started writing. Not for an audience, not for closure, just to empty my head. I wrote about the party, about the missed calls, about the version of myself I barely recognized anymore. The words poured out raw and unfiltered, and when I finished, something shifted. The pain didn't disappear, but it stopped owning me. That night, sitting alone in that quiet apartment, I understood something vital. Rock bottom isn't the moment you fall. It's the moment you realize you can't go back to who you were, and you don't want to. And that realization became the foundation for everything that came next. The shift didn't happen all at once. It never does. It began quietly, disguised as routine. I kept running every morning, before sunrise, when the streets were empty and the city hadn't decided who it was yet. With each mile, my breathing steadied, my legs grew stronger, and somewhere between exhaustion and rhythm, my thoughts started organizing themselves instead of spiraling. One morning, as I slowed to a walk, it hit me with startling clarity. Jason didn't break me, he revealed me. I had been strong all along. I had just been using that strength to hold something together that didn't deserve it. The real turning point came a week later, in a place I didn't expect, Patricia's office. She slid a folder across the desk, financial summaries, timelines, messages Jason had submitted as part of the process. "Read this," she said calmly. I scanned the pages and felt something settle in my chest. Jason had been positioning himself as blindsided, claiming the party was harmless, claiming I was emotionally volatile, claiming he had tried to fix things. But the dates didn't lie. The shirt had been ordered weeks in advance, customized, rush delivered. Patricia looked at me steadily. "This wasn't impulsive," she said. "This was intentional." Hearing it stated so plainly, by someone neutral, professional, unmoved by charm, did something powerful. It removed the last thread of self-doubt I'd been holding on to. I wasn't overreacting. I wasn't dramatic. I wasn't cruel. I was responding appropriately to cruelty. That afternoon, I made a decision, not fueled by anger, but clarity. I stopped framing my life around recovery and started building forward. I leaned fully into my career, took on leadership responsibilities I'd avoided before, let myself be visible, let myself be ambitious without apology. I kept writing at night, not as therapy anymore, but as documentation. Patterns, lessons, truths I wished I'd understood sooner. One night, on impulse, I published a short piece online. I titled it 89 Missed Calls. I expected nothing. By morning, there were comments, strangers, people who recognized themselves in my words. That's when it clicked. My story wasn't just mine anymore. And for the first time since the party, I didn't feel like a woman recovering from humiliation. I felt like a woman standing in her power, quietly, deliberately, deciding what came next. The consequences didn't arrive with fireworks. They arrived steadily, relentlessly. Jason's world began to shrink in ways he couldn't spin. Marcus left the firm first, quietly, without farewell speeches or Instagram posts. A transfer to Portland, a girlfriend, a clean exit. Just like that, the man Jason had publicly elevated vanished from his daily life. And with him went the validation Jason had leaned on so heavily. At work, the tone shifted. Whispers replaced praise. Side glances replaced enthusiasm. The story of the party traveled faster than Jason expected. Someone posted about it. Then someone else commented. Then screenshots circulated. The narrative slipped out of his control, and for the first time, he couldn't edit it. He tried to pivot. A lifestyle podcast. A rebrand. Carefully curated posts about growth and authenticity. It lasted 3 episodes. The comments were brutal, not because people wanted revenge, but because they recognized hypocrisy when they saw it. You can't lecture about respect after mocking your spouse in public. You can't preach empathy when your defining moment became a punchline at someone else's expense. His family went quiet. The same sister who had called me too sensitive stopped reaching out entirely. His parents, embarrassed and overwhelmed by the attention, urged him to lay low. Invitations dried up. Friends distanced themselves. Not dramatically, just enough to hurt. I watched none of this directly. I didn't need to. My life was accelerating in the opposite direction. The project I took on at work became a turning point. I was promoted within 6 months, senior project manager, a raise that made my old compromises feel absurd in hindsight. I built my own team, made decisions, led without asking permission. The writing grew too. What started as late-night processing became a rhythm. The blog, 89 Missed Calls, found readers I'd never met. Messages poured in from women rebuilding after betrayal, men questioning their own erasure, people standing at the edge of change. I responded to every message at first, then as many as I could. Helping others articulate their pain gave mine meaning. The divorce finalized quietly. No courtroom drama, no public statements. We divided things fairly. Jason kept the apartment, he made more money. I kept my car, my retirement, and something far more valuable, myself. The day I signed the papers, I felt calm. Not victorious, not bitter, free. Jason tried once more, months later, showing up on a stormy night, soaked and smaller than I remembered. He apologized then, really apologized. Too late. The words didn't land because the version of me who needed them no longer existed. I handed him a towel, waited for the rain to ease, and walked him out. No drama, no closure speech, just an ending. And while his life stalled, mine opened. 2 years after the night Jason handed me that shirt, my life barely resembled the one I had walked away from. The blog grew into something real. Speaking invitations, workshops, a book contract. Words I once wrote to survive became words that helped others breathe again. I stood on stages I never would have accepted before, talking about resilience, self-respect, and the quiet courage it takes to leave what diminishes you. I bought a home in the mountains, not because it looked impressive, but because it felt like peace. Mornings there were silent, no city noise, no performance, just trail runs through trees, steady breath, and the reminder that strength doesn't need an audience. I met Evan on one of those runs, a high school teacher with calloused hands and an easy laugh. He didn't compete with me, didn't need admiration. He showed up, steady, present. We built something slow and mutual, not performative. Partnership, not spectacle. I kept the tennis bracelet for a long time, not out of sentiment, but as a marker, a reminder of the woman who believed love was earned through sacrifice. Eventually, I sold it and donated the money to a shelter for women rebuilding their lives. It felt right. People still ask if I regret leaving, if I feel sorry for Jason. The answer is no. Closure doesn't always look like forgiveness. Sometimes it looks like acceptance and forward motion. The best revenge isn't proving someone wrong. It's building a life where their opinion no longer matters. Jason wanted me single again. He was right. Single, then stronger, then free. And I have never been more grateful for the moment that forced me to choose myself.